welcome back to the Georgia Show. Bill Quinn is on assignment, so it's just me today, back like the old days. We got a lot to go through today. I want to say hello to the crew in the chat. You're cleared hot. Thanks for joining us today. Check out whatfinger.com, great third-party aggregator site that posts a lot of our content, and we really appreciate that, and we kind of throw it back at them. We all know there's big problems with voting in Georgia. We all know there's big problems with the voter rolls, with the machines, with the establishment, with mail-in ballots, with a whole host of issues. Well, the secret sauce at CDM is that we have papers everywhere, and we see things that are going on in other parts of the country. And so we're going to bring you a story today. It's really a mystery, and we've got the guy to unravel the mystery, I think, Mr. Reese on the radio from WTIC in Connecticut. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. But we want to just focus still on the machines, on the voter rolls, on the midterms, and how we can clean this mess up, because it's a mess everywhere. And we all know in Georgia is the center of a lot of this controversy, but Connecticut is really, I think, the test lab for a lot of this stuff as well. It's one of the most communist infiltrated states in the union. So I think you're going to really enjoy the show. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the Flock Safety Animal Farm down in Savannah, Georgia. It's all over Atlanta also. That's a whole nother issue, but we're going to get into it. I'm going to jump right in because I've got him in the green room now. Reese on the radio from WTIC in Connecticut. Reese, how you doing this morning?
I am fantastic. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. And
hey,
you've got an audience.
My pleasure.
You've got an audience in Georgia primarily, but on this show, but you're going to join us on the national show in the morning too. So we're going to really break this wide open. So, you know, I've been kind of watching this from the outside. Can you give us a kind of an elevator pitch view of what actually happened in this case?
Yeah, it's an interesting and wild case because I feel like the people who are in charge have sort of led us down this road that caused us to be suspicious with an earlier case. But I'm kind of start from where we are and then sort of travel back and what caused all of this confusion. Because the current situation we're sitting in is related to the case of Melissa Ramirez. And Melissa Ramirez was responsible for a July 13th crash, allegedly, based on every piece of information we have, that early morning, about 2:45, she's traveling on a road in Danbury, and an off-duty police officer who is riding his motorcycle, a Harley Davidson, with his girlfriend, is traveling in the opposite direction of a car, and they were met, of course, by Ramirez. She crossed over the double yellow lines, crashed headfirst into the officer and his girlfriend, killing them instantly. Both of them died on the scene. Well, after investigation, it was realized that Miss Ramirez was an undocumented alien in the country. She's an illegal. And that story hit every, airwaves you could possibly think of in Connecticut. It's an off-duty police officer dead. And then finding out that the person who killed him was an illegal, of course, in the heightened sort of tension of illegals in the country, it, of course, took root, as it would. And after investigation, when we get all the documents that come with this story, the Connecticut Mirror released a warrant 11 days after the incident, which is kind of when the story really takes root. And in looking at that document, the Connecticut Mirror posted an unredacted warrant. And when I mean unredacted, it had unredacted certain things that they might have wanted to keep hidden. In particular, the driver's license of Melissa Ramirez. And with that, every, I guess, reasonable person who now knows that Melissa Ramirez is an illegal, everyone's asking, why would there be a driver's license associated with an illegal alien when Connecticut has what's called a drive-only license, as there are in many other states across the union? So in investigating that, as the Sentinel did, the Connecticut Sentinel did, and as well as Blue Lives Matter, who is kind of piggybacking off the Sentinel, they start looking into, if this person has a driver's license, let's go and find out if she's on the voter rolls. Now, why did they do that? It's because weeks earlier, we had found out about a businessman in West Hartford, Connecticut, named Seyo Sekunjanen. And we found out that that man has been illegal since 1997 when he entered the country under false pretenses using a forged or phony passport of a Dutch native. This man is from Montenegro. Not only did we find out that he had a driver's license, well, we found that out later, but he was on the voter rolls as well. And he was on the voter rolls from 2018 and then became inactive in 2023. We are not certain that he voted, but it doesn't look like he may have been. But in doing so, we started investigating that to find out if they were giving voter registrations to people with drive-only licenses. No one would tell us that he had a driver's license. We just knew that he was registered, and we were trying to figure out if the motor voter rolls played any role in this, because the document that you fill out to get a driver's license or to renew your driver's license was the same you would use for a drive only. So it's all on one document. There's no separate document. It's all on one document. And if there may have been some either malfeasance or mistake that was done by DMV, we needed to know why this guy ended up on the voter rolls, which he did. I spoke to Sayo personally, got him on the phone before this Ramirez story breaks, and I said to him, did you have a regular driver's license or a drive-only license? Because that's the crux of the story. If you're getting a drive-only and somebody's putting you on the motor voter rolls, we got a problem at DMV.
Yeah.
Well, Sayo says to me, when he calls me, he says, no, I had a regular driver's license. I've had one since 1999. 2 years after he entered the country illegally. So when I hear that, I go, wait a minute, are you sure that you had a driver's license, a real one? And then he says the line that blew my mind when I say I had to stop the conversation. He says this. He says, I know it was a real driver's license because they kept asking me if I wanted to get the little star. Now, if anybody's listening, you know exactly what that means. That is a real ID, the little star. And I said, whoa. So I finished my conversation with him, and then we advanced now to the Melissa Ramirez story and the Connecticut Sentinel's reporting. And now we go, wait a minute. This seems like, that we had been told by the Lamont administration, the governor, Ned Lamont, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, and anybody else who would talk to us. I think Richard Blumenthal as well. This was a one-off with Sayo Secunjanin. There's no way that this story advances beyond Sayo Secunjanin. And then we have the Ramirez case, which clearly shows a driver's license number. Now we have a pattern. So with all of that, as we go into all of this, we get this response, I should say, from the Secretary of State, who turns around and says that the Sentinel and Blue Lives Matter, who posted this information, as well as other public officials, that the documents showing online were manipulated.
Yeah.
And therefore saying that Sentinel and Blue Lives Matter were falsifying a story about the warrant and the voter registration of a Melissa Ramirez, which we now know beyond a shadow of a doubt was because of the Danbury Police Department. Now, my whole argument is this, and this is the point that everyone needs to understand. If indeed the Danbury police made a mistake, we are willing to accept that. And we will say, okay, everything checks out, no harm, no foul. But I'll go one step further on this one and why the suspicion is there. The aforementioned Secunjanin case is article number 1. Article number 2 is to suggest that we altered any documents when they know that we didn't. We took exactly what came from the Danbury police. But here's number 3. If the accident happened on July 13th, Todd, and a police officer on the scene is going over the scene and is speaking to the Ramirez, who is in the hospital, he tells another officer, go look up the information I have. Her name is Melissa Ramirez. She's born on July 4th, 1999. A police officer looks that up on his computer, which is, I guess this program's called Connect, which is supposed to give, and everything that I've checked out says that when a police officer looks up that information, he not only gets the information of your driver's license, he gets a digital printout of you and your description. and in many cases, your picture. That officer who got that is off-site. I think his name is Officer Ray. Well, Officer Ray, the story would end there if Officer Ray just looked it up and says, okay, I got her, and then gives it to his superiors. But that's not the case. He gets a description of Ramirez, and then he goes to the hospital where Ramirez is recovering, and he sees her eye to eye, and he questions her. That's all on July 13th, the morning of the accident. 11 days later, when they issue the warrant, where it is signed off by a district attorney, Todd, the driver's license still exists on the warrant, which started this whole nonsense in the first place.
Let me just take a step back so our audience understands. You had an illegal woman who's been here a long time kill a cop in a DUI and his girlfriend, mother of 3, by the way.
Yes.
And so horrible situation. We find out she's illegal. Our paper, the Connecticut Sentinel, which you've referenced, spelled with a C, they're the ones that broke with DHS that she was illegal. And then we find out there's an identical person, name and birth date, who's been voting in Connecticut. This is big because we're moving into the midterms, and it's a big deal, right? They don't want they don't want this out there, that there's a lot of this coming out that illegals are voting across the country. So back to you.
No. Okay. I'm sorry. I thank you for clarifying for everyone. If I got ahead of anyone, I apologize.
No, they just don't know the whole story like you do.
Right.
So I just
understood. So no, and I appreciate the clarification. It works better that way. So anyway, we get to this whole point. Now, the police officer, Ray, who comes to the hospital to actually speak to Melissa Ramirez, the illegal, he has the actual documented information based upon what he had, her name, her date of birth, and now he has got the confirmation of her driver's license, which is why it appeared on all of the documents in the first place. Now, if there was a mix-up at any time, again, they had 11 days to figure that out. 11. And it is going on an affidavit of truth coming from police officers who explain in their affidavit every one of the details I gave you. The only reason why I know it is because I'm reading it from the Danbury Police's affidavit that they applied to the warrant. And this is why we're saying when the Secretary of State comes out and she says these falsehoods that are provably untrue, one, to suggest that the Sentinel and Blue Lives Matter doctored or manipulated any documents, knowing damn well that all of those things were pulled from the Connecticut Mirror and they got it from the Danbury Police. That's a falsehood. Two, she suggests that no one ever contacted the Secretary of State's office about this. Before any of us went public, the Secretary of State was not only contacted by the Connecticut Sentinel, by my office, also two state senators, Senator Harding and Senator Rob Sampson. They both sent her a letter asking her to please address the information that suggests that this person is on the voter rolls and voted in 3 elections in 2022 and 24. So she said she never received it. That's all provably untrue. And the last but not least, the thing that blows my mind, I'll tell you this, Todd, she suggests that the young lady is receiving death threats. I'm going to play a little bit of like Columbo in all of this. If you're telling me that the young woman who, based on every published report, says she is incarcerated in prison because of the death of a police officer, to suggest to me that another woman is getting phone calls and death threats, for what exactly is she receiving them for? Now, if it's killing a cop and a mother of 3, you don't need to add that to the story, Secretary of State, because that is a reasonable thing. Not that it's a right thing to do, but it's a reasonable reaction when you kill a mother and a cop because of your drunk driving, right? When you say getting a death threat, it's a non-starter. We know where that's coming from. But the Secretary of State tried to suggest that the reason why this woman is getting death threats is because she's on the voter rolls.
The woman who may or may not exist.
Yeah, right. Which is exactly what I called it. The woman who may or may not exist. Well, then
Yeah.
I have to go a little deep, and I'm sorry that this is so long-winded, but this is an important part. So reporter Dan Haar did a story about her.
Hmm.
Just I think it was yesterday or the day before. So I called Dan Haar because I know that I know more information than he does about this.
Right.
And I asked him, hey, can I get the telephone number of the young lady you contacted? And he says, I don't have it. I lost it. I said, okay, that's weird. That's weird.
A woman who may or may not exist.
Yeah, the woman who may not exist. He said, I lost it. I said, okay, that's fine. That he doesn't know I've already have the number.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, hey, what do you remember the last 4 digits? Maybe that would help me. And he was like, no, I don't have it. So we go on, we start talking and everything. And I go, did you fill out a police report? Or did she fill out a police report? And he goes, why would she do that? I said, well, she's receiving death threats. And he goes, she is? And I go, yes.
You reported.
Yeah. It's like, dude, you reported that she's receiving threats online.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah. He goes, I said, and the Secretary of State put out a video press release that says that the woman is receiving threats online. We contacted the New Britain police where you say she lives, and there's no report of a death threat. And he goes, oh, I didn't know she was receiving death threats. I said, did you watch the Secretary of State's video message? He says, no. So then I go one step further. And I go, well, that's weird that you wouldn't know that. I said, maybe you should look it up and maybe you should report on the fact that she's getting death threats. But then he says something that blows my mind. And I said, I can't believe that you won't share the number with me just so I can get maybe some other feedback on if she's reported a death threat. But then he says, well, I don't want to give it to you. And I said, oh, you have it? He goes, no, I don't want to give it to you. And I said, why? He goes, well, she can charge you with harassment. And I said, Dan, you made an unsolicited phone call to her yourself, sir, didn't you? Exactly. She could have accused you of harassment, couldn't she have? Why are you all of a sudden protecting me? You have no reason to protect me. And so then he realizes, oh, that was a stupid statement. And I just go, yeah, buddy. He goes, well, I just looked her up on the public record. And I'm like, then why don't you just say that? Just leave that alone. Mm-hmm. So now I'm getting the impression that the news media knows that this is dirty.
Yeah.
And they're covering this up.
And let me jump in here again, just so people understand. This woman, we've gone through it before. She killed a cop. She was illegal. She may have been voting. And the Connecticut Secretary of State and the media in Connecticut are saying there's another woman with the exact same name, same birthday, that everybody's getting it wrong. It's this other woman who he talked to, but he won't give you the phone number, and she may or may not exist.
Exactly.
Am I correct on that? Okay.
You were 100% right on that. But I'll go one step further, Todd. This ought to make you laugh. Now, my wife is Mexican, so please, I hope no one gets offended by the joke I am about to say, but I'm going to sort of say it tongue-in-cheek. This is very true. So my wife often tells me, she says, I'm the only Mexican from Texas who doesn't have 5 names. My wife doesn't even have a middle name. She's pure Mexican. And we always laugh about that. So Miss Ramirez has 4 names, okay? Mm-hmm. And Miss Ramirez, her name is Melissa Esperanza Ramirez Romano. Her date of birth is July 4th, 1999. Now, folks, the person that they're claiming is an American citizen is also named Melissa Ramirez. Now, again, I could make that argument. In New York, with there are 8 million people, there's a likelihood you'll get 2 Melissa Ramirez's,
right,
who are born on July 4th, 1999. But Connecticut has 3.6 million people. Okay, so it's a much smaller demographic, much smaller group that you're going to have to get this double name out of. But let's go one step further. We looked up the Melissa Ramirez, who is alleged to be an American citizen. And it turns out that Melissa Ramirez, the U.S. citizen, is on the voter rolls as Melissa Ramirez Romano.
Wow.
So now you're telling me
3 names they got right.
3 names they got right. The only one missing is Esperanza.
And the same birthday.
In the same birthday. So what are the odds? What are the odds that this woman managed to fake the exact name, almost the exact name of another Melissa Ramirez Romano on the same birthday?
The point is that Connecticut is covering up the fact that illegals are voting in Connecticut
Yep.
and probably in big numbers. And I'm to understand by talking to our paper, and we may be breaking this tomorrow, that this may be the tip of the iceberg of something much bigger, because there's possibly a lot of fraud associated with this, very similar to what was going on in Minnesota with the Somali stuff. So
we're looking into an organization that may be assisting in this fraud or voter fraud. And that organization, we're trying to get to the bottom of it, but we have all of our investigators. I've got a former detective out of Waterbury, Adam 12, as we call him, is digging into this. And I think you spoke to him as well. He is digging. Yeah. He's digging so deep into this. And every day I talk to him, which is like every 15 minutes, it gets dirtier. I'm like, I keep having to take a shower after I get off the phone with him. I'm like, this is incredible.
Well, we may be breaking some more news tomorrow on this whole story on exactly if that second woman actually exists or if it's the same woman. So stay tuned on that. I have the video from the Secretary of State. Do you mind if I play that real quick?
I would love it if you did.
Okay, let me make sure this works. But it's Facebook, so it's not really working.
May take a minute.
Yeah. Frustrating. Let me refresh it and see if it happens.
You may have to just
Connecticut woman, innocent, has been receiving death threats after being identified as an undocumented immigrant connected to a fatal crash and being accused of illegally registering to vote. Now, were these allegations made after a thorough review of the case by investigators, by a court of law? No. It was a Facebook post. You heard me, a Facebook post. A manipulated image by an outlet that honestly my 83-year-old mother at one glance would have known it was false. And this should alarm everyone, regardless of political party. The facts in this case are proven and well documented. Melissa Ramirez of Stamford, the defendant charged in connection with the July 13th crash that killed an off-duty Bridgeport police officer, is not and has never been registered to vote in Connecticut. Now, the voter registration record circulating online belongs to a different person entirely. Another Melissa Ramirez, a United States citizen who lives in New Britain, who is legally registered to vote in Connecticut. But despite this, screenshots of this
I won't play the whole thing, but essentially that other woman, that U.S. citizen that may or may not exist, has the same birthday and the same exact name as the woman who is incarcerated.
I love the fact that, the editorializing by the Secretary of State, Stephanie Thomas, is absolutely like, I couldn't be more gobstopped stomped by the whole nonsense when she says that it is a edit or a manipulated photo that even her 83-year-old grandmother would have located. Then what's the harm then? If her 83-year-old grandmother would have figured it out. To suggest that, she's saying, and this was all disseminated by a Facebook post, which is also, like I said, she makes these unprovable claims. I mean, these provable lying claims about what actually happened, suggesting that Blue Lives Matter or the Connecticut Sentinel posted anything that was fabricated or altered, when she knows full well that all of this came directly from the source, the Danbury Police Department that is charging this woman with the crime.
And your point is that they later said, well, the person who killed them didn't have a driver's license, so it couldn't be the same person.
Correct.
But your point is, for 13 days, they were acting like it was the same person. Right?
Exactly. And again, this is a thorough investigation that you have to charge someone with. The document could actually derail your case. You can't file a warrant with false information. It's an affidavit of truth each officer is giving. And when they're giving their statement, if you read through the warrant, the officer Ray, who says that he checked and then went to the hospital and viewed or went to go speak physically to Ramirez, he is admitting, I looked at the information about her description, and then I went and met her. So he, if anyone, can tell if the person he looked up and the person he spoke to were one and the same. and they had 11 days to 13 days to do it. And it was only after the Sentinels reporting and Blue Lives Matter posting it that they decided, that's not the same woman, and then didn't take ownership that it was their mistake and put it on us, which immediately causes suspicion in my book, to try to deflect and say it was us who did it, that it was the Connecticut Sentinel who did it, and not taking ownership of it and saying that these were lies and fabrication by the Secretary of State. Absolutely unforgivable. And they not only need to apologize, they need to retract it and take ownership of it.
And so does the reporter who inferred that we were actually, he said we wrote a good piece on it. So I don't know the man, but whatever. But I do
Dan
know,
Haar?
Yeah, the media is controlled in Connecticut, except for us with the Connecticut Sentinel.
Well, that's the reason. Hey, look, that's the reason why I go to war with him every day, because I told him, I made it clear when I show up at the press conferences of all of these public officials, I'm like, look, the only reason why I'm here is because you're not doing your job. And, do your job and I'll stay home.
Well, the reason I wanted you on this show is because we have these issues all over the country, and Georgia's really wrapped up in this.
Sure.
But and this is a good example because people in Georgia are frustrated. They're kind of worn down after fighting this fight for 6 years, and this is a win because free media came in and figured this out, and we're moving into the midterms, and people really need to get energized. So, Reese, tell us about your show. Tell us where people can find you, all that stuff.
Well, you can always go to reeseontheradio.com, just as it's displayed there on the screen. That's REESE. I don't know, for some odd reason, with Reese's Peanut Butter Cups being around for over 70 years, people still spell it with a C. But anyway, it's Reese. It's reeseontheradio.com. The show is, what I'd like to say is, I am the pop culture critic at large. And what I mean by that is that politics or pop culture is downstream of politics, or sometimes the other way around. And it is now enveloped every part of our life. And the only way that we can get through it is if we're dissecting it every day. So my show is much like, and I say this openly and honestly because I love the man. I learned everything I could about this medium from the great Rush Limbaugh. And I consider myself a student of his. I love it when he said that the learning never stops, and I learn every day. But I make sure that I tell people that, do not let the media dictate the news to you. They should not be reporting the news. They should be reporting the truth. And my job is to report the truth. So I break all that stuff down, get through the talking points and the nonsense, and I make sure that people are armed with the facts, not just for their lives, but when they get into these debates, and also so they can take a little bit of a breath when the news media is trying to make you go frantic. So that's what we do.
You put a lot of you post a lot of really great content on our paper, the Connecticut Sentinel, spelled with a C. You can find Reese there and find where to find him. And wow, just thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. I'll be on Roger Stone's show, The Stone Zone, at 4 p.m. today for people in the New York, Connecticut area talking about this. And Reese, you're going to come back on tomorrow on the Skiff, our national show.
I love the Skiff, by the way. I get an alert every morning with the Skiff. So I'm actually very proud to be asked to be on. So thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
By the way, please tell Roger Stone from me, love him, support him, and hopefully one day I get to, if not meet him, at least get to talk to him.
We'll try to make that happen. Reese on the radio, WTIC in Connecticut. Thank you, sir. We'll have you back. Take care.
You got it, sir. Bye-bye.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually. and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our cdm.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you.
I'm a naturopathic doctor. We are in the world of medicine very acquainted with many modalities, but probably the one most familiar with everybody would be two things: homeopathy and herbs, maybe some nutrients too, vitamins, minerals, that kind of thing. Now, we do know a lot about the drugs because we have to find out what drug you're taking affects you and what nutrient it depletes you of, because most every drug pharmacy product will deplete something. So we have been trained and we have a database that we can check into that says this is going to take your B12 away. The pharmaceutical company cannot patent organic substances made by the body. You're not born short of Advil. You're not born short of Ritalin.
Yeah.
You can be born short of insulin, right? Mm-hmm. The answers to staying healthy and keeping away from even SARS or any of those things getting into you is staying healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You and I get sick because our terrain gets out of balance. Well, that's the same thing in the soil. You and I are made from this thing called dirt. And when we get out of balance, we have the same thing happen. Weeds start to grow in our body. Right? And that's what we want in our body. We want nutrients that we don't understand how to get well enough yet because our suppliers are lacking knowledge on nutrient density foods.
So this is what drove you to develop this, was your knowledge of this, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. You know that.
Welcome back to the Skiff. I want to talk about Flock Safety. It's an Atlanta company, kind of secretive. There's been a lot of stuff on social media of trying to film where their offices are and their employees, who don't like to be filmed, oddly enough, because they're filming everybody else in the country without any informed consent. But Flock Safety, the Flock cameras are becoming a big issue. And I just want to bring this up in Dunwoody, Georgia. There was an instance recently, and we've been talking about this a lot, but this was Dunwoody residents questioned Flock camera oversight after vendor executive viewed children's gymnastic feed. Flock exec accessed children's gym camera in Dunwoody surveillance network. A Flock Safety executive logged into Dunwoody Police's camera network on September 30th, 25, and viewed a single feed, a camera inside a children's gymnastics room at the Marcus Jewish Community Center of Atlanta. According to the access logs obtained, he viewed no other camera in the city's 400 camera system that day. That finding is the center of a letter to the editor published where one day after DeKalb County Sheriff's deputy was fired and arrested for misusing the same Flock reader technology. So this is happening. This system is being abused. One, there's no informed consent. Two, it's everywhere without you knowing where the cameras are. Three, it's not just a license plate reader. It's audio, it's Bluetooth, it's telephone possibly. And they are tracking people, tracking cars, and it is a surveillance state. So this is a problem, and we're going to continue to talk about it. There's another problem in Savannah. Let me just bring up this article that we put out today, or actually yesterday or the day before. Savannah Mayor Van Johnson's animal farm. His he's pushing the globalist narrative. He's pushing doing nothing with the homeless, not cleaning up that problem. There's massive gang violence in Savannah. And he's also all into the flock safety thing. And he says, you know what? If you want safety, there's a cost. And that cost is your constitutional freedoms, according to Mayor Van Johnson in Atlanta. Like, we're gonna surveil you, and that's the price of safety. The problem is Chatham County has a massive growth in violent crime while this is happening. And there's problems in Savannah as well. But you can find this article on the Georgia Record, Savannah's Animal Farm with Mayor Van Johnson. So safety comes at a cost. It's all about the safety. It's always the children, the safety, children's pornography online. So we have to surveil everything. That's always the excuse. Don't fall for it. So there's another story in Savannah. Guess what? 6 Savannah police employees placed on leave over alleged flock misuse. So again, more surveillance everywhere, more abuse of privacy of regular American citizens. You may not want people to know what you're doing, right? I'm not recommending it, but if you're cheating on your wife and you want to go to your girlfriend's house, hey, they're going to know. If you are sneaking away from your parents to do something, they're going to know. If there's all kind of things people are entitled to their own privacy. And if they want to do something that they don't want others to know, they should be able to do that. And with the flock system, they're not doing that. So we're going to continue highlighting this, and it's important to make sure people are aware. All right, we're going to take another break because we went along with Reese, and then we're going to come back and do some talking on inflammation with Dr. Peter McCullough. We'll be right back.
A warm welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embra team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here. I'm going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Avello. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Avello, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Avello is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
Couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, and our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
Divorce is tough, but your finances don't have to be. I'm David Cross, and I'm a certified divorce financial analyst practitioner. My job is to help you get a fair financial settlement in your divorce and to guide you to smarter money decisions. Find out how we can help you. U.S. Asset Management. It's your money and your future.
Okay, welcome back to the Georgia Show. I want to now play an interview we did with Dr. Peter McCullough on inflammation. It's a big issue for everyone, and the Wellness Company can help. So I'm going to play this now. Stand by. This is really good information.
Dr. Peter McCullough from the Wellness Company. Doc, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.
So I saw something that you put out, and we have some people on our team that were really involved in Lyme disease early on and got it and were persecuted really for saying, I think I have Lyme disease because it has all these other symptoms that docs didn't really want to treat. But you said something recently that almost everyone has markers for this. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we've been shocked to see that, over time, it looks like all of us get a tick bite of some sort. And there are certainly tick-borne diseases, Lyme disease, babesiosis, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and others. But what's unique about Lyme, the organism Borrelia burgdorferi, is that it installs certain antigens in the body. One of them is called opsinin A, that cause chronic illness. There's no doubt about it. People develop chronic Lyme. And, the key is to treat it very early. In fact, in the wellness company, we have emergency medical kits that have doxycycline. There's a protocol. If you get a tick bite, within a very brief period of time, if you take doxycycline, you're fine. But once the Lyme organism is installed and we start to get Lyme disease, it causes a skin rash, Todd. It looks like a target, like the red Target shopping store. Yeah.
Yep.
So my wife had it. She actually developed a target. And where the tick usually bites, believe it or not, is the back of the arm. It's a place you can't see. And that's exactly where my wife got it. And so it forms a target. And if you treat it right away, in that case, we used 2 antibiotics for my wife. Again, problem solved. But if it's not detected, weeks to months later, there's joint inflammation. It gets into the brain, causing all kinds of neurologic problems. It gets into the heart and actually causes heart block, which requires a pacemaker. That happened in my wife's cousin. People live in the Northeast originally, is where it was originally described, but Michigan, loaded, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and even down through the central Midwest, including Oklahoma and Texas. My wife got it in Texas, actually. So the key thing about Lyme is to make sure you have an emergency medical kit from the wellness company, recognize a tick bite early, follow the protocol, take doxycycline to knock it out. If one develops clinical Lyme disease, oftentimes 2 antibiotics are needed. Again, that's covered in the wellness company kits. Chronic Lyme disease is a problem, and that's the reason why there's been attempts on vaccination. So there was a vaccine several years ago. It was partially effective to prevent the first case of Lyme, but in fact, it caused post-Lyme syndrome, including joint symptoms, and now a new one recently on focal points. And again, it was partially effective, about 70%, but seemed to cause joint aches. And so, we don't want to give a vaccine to a well person and end up with a post-Lyme-like syndrome. So that's where we are right now. I still think it's about prompt detection, early treatment.
Interesting, because my son had it, and we didn't realize he had it because he didn't get the target. One of my other children had the target, but he came in one night in the middle of the night. He was like, I don't know, 6 years old, walked into the bedroom, and my wife and he's like, do you see that bed? It's coming after me. And he was hallucinating.
Yes.
So it was in the brain, right?
Yes.
It's really,
in the
really
brain.
scary.
It's scary. Gets in the heart. An example, my wife's cousin needed a pacemaker. I mean, it really is a real syndrome. And, medical professionals for the longest time denied it. There was a great controversy of whether or not there was a post-Lyme syndrome. Linked to this can be chronic fatigue syndrome, neuropathies, and finally, all the medical societies agree there is a post-Lyme syndrome. It's a legitimate diagnosis. And once we're past the phase where antibiotics can use, most of this is dealing with the body's reaction to the Lyme antigen and forms of detoxification.
So let's talk about that. Inflammation is a big deal. A lot of, especially older people, have it. A lot of the stuff the treatments that come out today are just to mask the underlying problem. Talk to me about inflammation, please.
So true. Inflammation is what makes our joints sore and stiff. And as we get older, sometimes it's frankly painful, but a lot of times what I think, Todd, is that I just feel old, like my knees feel old. And the big innovation from the wellness company are forms of peptides. Now, peptides are less than 50 amino acids in length. We have a topical product that's wonderful, particularly for the knees and the hands, elbows, and that's called TheraBlue. TheraBlue features several peptides as well as botanicals, menthol, and actually methylene blue. That's the reason why it's called TheraBlue. It actually looks like a blue cream. You rub it into your knees and elbows, hands, and boy, does it work. I mean, it's miraculous how much better you feel when you use TheraBlue. It comes in a pretty big pump canister. So I think twice a day on TheraBlue for people with chronic joint ailments is wonderful. And now we have a systemic approach called Regenerate. Regenerate is leveraging topical drops And we can use up to about 30 drops in a cup of coffee or just a small shot glass or 2 of water. And Regenerate contains 3 peptides, one commonly used, BP157, that's 15 amino acids inside, KPV, 3 amino acids, and TB500, 7 amino acids. And there's a special aquasome technology that allows these to get into the system. This is wonderful because it's not a drug to cover up pain. It's not a genetic treatment. These are peptides that have a very positive function in the body, and then they're disposed of through our typical reticuloendothelial system clearance. So these are a breakthrough. People who want to fundamentally improve their musculoskeletal health. It's also very good for the GI microbiome.
So if I'm correct, I'm not a doctor, but these are like building blocks that your body can use to repair itself. Am I right about that?
Absolutely. So the body, it stimulates repair. That's exactly what they do. They stimulate repair. They do tend to block various inflammatory programs. There is a whole process called epigenetics where certain factors turn on genes, and those genes produce inflammatory factors. So you have to have inhibitors, and a lot of times that's what these peptides do. There's more and more research suggesting they're very beneficial. The best thing about them is safe. They are very safe. I worry about my patients taking the heavy-duty anti-inflammatories. For instance, my mom has arthritis, and she takes meloxicam, which is a prescription non-steroidal. It's in the family with Motrin and Aleve. And boy, I tell you, it causes stomach ulcers and kidney problems like there's no tomorrow. And I'm greatly worried about meloxicam, Bextra, these types of drugs. I think the safest over-the-counter anti-inflammatory is actually naproxen sodium, the blue gel caps. Well, that would be Aleve or the generic form, which is the same. But it's in a gel cap. This is very important because you want the pain relief quickly, but you don't want the tablet to lay against the stomach and burn a hole in the stomach and cause an ulcer. So I never take Motrin tablets or Aleve tablet. If I have a bad headache, I'll take 2 of the blue gel caps, naproxen sodium blue gel caps. You can get them anywhere.
Interesting. So there's no really, I guess, side effects of some of these peptides you're talking about?
No.
Okay.
No, they are free of anything concerning whatsoever. And, they take time. I tell everybody, listen, these are, products that are natural to the body. Give it a good 6 to 12 months and see if that back stiffness and hips and knees, especially the deeper joints, that's hard to get to with various forms of rubs. And I'm thinking about the lumbosacral spine, the hips, deep into the shoulders. People should consider Regenerate. You can only do so much with physical therapy and then the over-the-counter anti-inflammatories. They have their role, and certainly if there's terrible pain, you can't sleep, you can take 2 of them. But you want to fundamentally improve the problems, fundamentally make the joints better. The 2 products are TheraBlue topically and Regenerate by taking oral drops.
Well, thank you. You answered those questions, but I would be remiss if I let you get away and not giving me an update on some of the vaccine problems we're having. I know young women who can't seem to have a child. I mean, cancers, all of that. What's the latest that you're seeing on the, I guess, the side effects of the COVID vax?
Well, the first thing we're seeing another marketing campaign for more boosters. And the name of this campaign, it comes out each year. This one is called Cicada. And it's a new version of COVID resistant to all the other vaccines. And I bet there'll be cicada vaccines in the fall. You mark my words on this. Remember, last year it was razor blade sore throat. Cicada are those giant bugs that emerge in St. Louis and Kansas City. They make so much noise. They're about as big as your hand. And cicada means rebirth or resurrection. So it's almost as if those promoting the vaccines want a re-erection of a very mild illness. Over 90% of us have had the illness. We don't have to worry about it. 81% took a vaccine. Most people are not taking any more vaccines. But what is emerging is an understanding that the vaccines stay in the body a very long time. Pfizer and Moderna now 3.5 years in circulating in the bloodstream. Spike protein it produces lasts, again, for many years. We need the ultimate spike detox from the wellness company. This is the go-to product 2 capsules twice a day is the labeled dose. For severe cases, I commonly, under doctor's direction, 4 caps twice a day, delivering 16,000 units of nattokinase a day. A year or more on this to drop the spike antibody levels. You can measure those self-directed at LabCorp. The next product we have, which is a global detoxifen, and this is one I definitely recommend for those who've had Lyme and COVID, is the Ultra NAC. So this is N-acetylcysteine, zinc, selenium, molybdenum, and very importantly, milk thistle, liposomal glutathione, and quercetin. So I read those small fonts without glasses. I'm feeling pretty strong today. But these, Todd, these are wonderful supplements. They go together. It's a natural approach. We advise people to sweat because we know the vaccine and the spike protein comes out in sweat. Right now, these are the leading approaches for people to get through these pandemic syndromes.
Very interesting, Doctor. We'll have you back. Thank you for your time and really informative. Take care.
Thank you.
Mike was muted. Sorry. Hope you enjoyed the Georgia show. Sorry about that, guys. We're a little short-staffed today. So once again, hope you enjoyed the Georgia show. I'll be back Wednesday night at 7. Bill Quinn will be off Wednesday as well, but I'll be here. We'll have a great show. And I'll be on the Skiff tomorrow, 10 to noon, Monday through Friday. On the Skiff Eastern, please sign up for our socials, CDM1 on Rumble. Please go to YouTube right now and subscribe if you haven't done that. Even if you don't watch us there, subscribe to CDM. And sign up for our no-ad subscriptions. Go to my.cdm.press. That's my.cdm.press. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. A lot of people just pay the $100. You support free media. We're breaking stories all over the country. Can't you see that? We deserve your support. So my.cdm.press and see all of our content with no ads. No ads are going to pop up. We're bringing on a new ad server. There's going to be ads. We have to make money. We have to survive. It's a business. We don't get handouts. We don't get Pfizer money. So we have to survive. And we do that one way with advertising, but also this no ad subscription. If you don't want to see the ads, please sign up and help us that way. And let's work to get rid of the machines. That's the focus, is the machines. We got to get rid of them. Anybody talking about elections or anything and not saying the machines have to go is suspect. All right. We will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. on the Skiff and Wednesday night, 7 p.m. on the Georgia show. We'll be back. Thank you.